Hello, and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga, match day 26. After the game we saw in the Champions League between Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, Ronan Murphy, I think we all expected a tighter game, a tighter tie, but it was all Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I think we expected Bayer Leverkusen to maybe score some goals because it didn't happen over
At
two
least.
legs. Yeah, at least one would have been nice for Bayer Leverkusen, but no, it showed the difference in, maybe not necessarily a difference in even players or coaches, but the difference in, like you've been saying, in the Champions League games, when it comes to the Champions League, the difference in Champions League experience, and Bayern Munich have it in spades, and it showed over two legs against Bayer Leverkusen.
Well, it was very easy for Bayern Munich also launch towards the title in the Bundesliga. Let's see if Ronan is giving us tips for surprises in this match day, because last weekend was a crazy one for the Bundesliga. I'm sure the bookies made a lot of money out of the German players. So guys, stay with us, listen to Ronan's analysis, and of course, if you enjoy the video, press the like and subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. First game is St. Pauli Hoffenheim, and here I'm kind of surprised about the odds, Ronan, because the bookies play St. Pauli as the favorites, even if they lost the last 4 games without scoring a single goal, only 2 points above Bochum, so in danger. And Hoffenheim, they drew with Heidenheim, still in danger, but they are in good form recently, 8 points in the last 4 games. So I see value on backing Hoffenheim somehow here.
Yeah, I also do, because if you look at St. Pauli's home form this season, it's been terrible. It's the second worst in the Bundesliga. They've just won 2 home games all season and only scored 7 goals in front of their home fans. I saw 3 of those goals in one game. So in the rest of the games, they've not been scoring goals. They've definitely not been scoring 2 goals. It just doesn't happen. They won 2-0 in this fixture away in November, and maybe that's what the bookies are looking at for this one. Or maybe they just look at last week in the Bundesliga and the previous week and just give wild odds, because wild results seem to be happening week after week in the Bundesliga at the moment. It was the first time in Bundesliga history where there wasn't a single home win in 2 consecutive match days. So I think there's a good chance that that trend could continue, at least on Friday evening in this one, for St. Pauli not to win at home. They haven't won in 6, like you said. They ended a run of 4 defeats with a draw against Wolfsburg, but they've not been scoring either before that. Hoffenheim are undefeated in their last 4, 1 draw. So if to follow a pattern, if you learn when you first go to school and you learn patterns, the next one is obviously a win in that pattern. So it should be a win here. Hoffenheim 345 looks massive. If you want to go a little safer, Hoffenheim Asian handicap 0 could be a good option here at 234.4. So that's even better odds than St. Pauli have been given to win this match. And if you look at these teams and the many goals they score, it's barely any. Average goals for St. Pauli this season is 0.8, so they're not even averaging a goal a game this season. Hoffenheim slightly better at 1.3. So total goals under 2.5 could be a good one in this one, because it looks like it's going to be one of these diabolical Friday evening games. 183 for total goals under 2.5. But like I said earlier, St. Pauli don't score goals at home. They've only scored 7 goals at home all season. 3 of those were in one match. So maybe a way to go here is St. Pauli under 1.5 goals at 162.
Well, let's move on to the games we have on Saturday. Tough one to predict is Augsburg Wolfsburg, perhaps a low scoring game, because Augsburg, they haven't conceded a single goal in the last 5 games. They were one of these teams making or doing a great surprise against Dortmund, beating them away, and they are not far from Europe. Wolfsburg drew with St. Pauli, but they won the last 2 away games in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, and Wolfsburg also have 𝐿𝐵𝐴 should be back in goal for them after he was missing the last few games through injury. So they should have a better goalkeeper, which should in turn keep the amount of goals going in the In the nets, even lower in this one. Augsburg, like you said, clean sheet machine at the moment. To keep getting clean sheets, 5 games unbeaten. They haven't conceded, obviously, so you can't lose if you don't concede. They haven't conceded in that 5 games, and going back to the match before that, both teams to score no has happened in their last 6 games in all competitions. Wolfsburg, if you look at their average goals for the season, it's 2 goals per game, but they've only scored 2 goals twice in their last 7 matches, so they're not really hitting that mark in recent times either. So total goals under is another market I'm looking at again here. So it's not a great start to the week for both teams to score, and no total goal tips in this one for the Bundesliga. Total goals under 2.5 is 185. This is a battle of 2 very middle of the table teams. It's 7th versus 11th. Augsburg is playing good at home, is what one of our commenters, 𝗵𝐻𝐿, is saying. So Augsburg win on the screen looks good. Coming up here, 277 looks pretty good, or 274 I think it is now. So yeah, that doesn't look too bad to go for Augsburg to get a home win, because they are playing quite well at home. They're not conceding goals, but both teams to score no is probably slightly better value. And seeing as how Augsburg keeping clean sheets, Wolfsburg have their first choice goalkeeper back. Both teams to score no at 205 might be good value.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Is Mainz Freiburg. Great game, this one, for the European battle, even for the Champions League. Who would have said that at the beginning of the season? Mainz third after beating Gladbach, 4 consecutive wins, so real options to qualify for the Champions League. Also Freiburg challenging for the Champions League spots, drew with Leipzig and Augsburg in the last 2 games. Is 6 games without conceding a goal for Freiburg. So I guess if you are looking for goals, don't watch this game.
Yeah, we've been saying that for the first 2 games. Will it be 3 in a row? We're saying that because Mainz are a team on fire at the moment. Their highest ever points total at this stage of the season. After 25 games, they have 44 points in the Bundesliga. That's their best ever performance in the Bundesliga at this stage. So what a season they're having. 4 defeats in a row, undefeated in 5. They've scored 2+ goals in each of their last 4 games, which have all been wins. And Freiburg have had, like you said, 6 games without conceding a goal, 2 0-0 draws after 4 wins to 0. Freiburg are 5th in the table. We were talking about Mainz being in the Champions League spot, but Freiburg are 5th, and the odds are 4.07. And the reason for that is that Mainz are 3rd in the table. It's just a 2 teams vastly outperforming expectations this season. You have to go back to 2021 for the last Mainz win. The 7 games since then. Freiburg have won twice. There's been 5 draws, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a draw here at 355. And 𝗵𝐻𝐿 is saying again he likes Mainz. He's thinking that a Mainz double chance sounds good, but I'm going the other way around because the odds are a bit better. So Freiburg double chance at 185.
Okay, 1-1 for 𝗵𝐻𝐿. I like, Mainz. They are dangerous and strong, especially at home. The opposite. Next one, Union Berlin, Bayern Munich. We saw a massive surprise in both games. Union Berlin, because we didn't expect them to beat Frankfurt away after 3 consecutive defeats. Bayern Munich, because it was even more unexpected, the defeat against Bochum after leading 2-0 with Guerreiro scoring a brace. Now they have more time after beating Leverkusen to recover, Ronan. And I guess after the international break, they will be very happy to push for the first ever trophy for Harry Kane in the Bundesliga, and also challenging and facing Inter Milan in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. This will be a great tie with opposite styles, actually.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting one. Vincent Kompany obviously is a defensive sort of minded coach after being a defender himself, and he's coming up against Inter, the team with the best defense in the Champions League. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about on our Champions League previews in a few weeks when they come around. But for now, Bayern Munich need to bounce back in the Bundesliga. They had great results over Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League, but last weekend was a disaster against Bochum. They were winning 2-0. They got a man sent off, 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. He's obviously suspended here. Will 𝗀𝗏𝗀 come into midfield? Will he start midfield, or will 𝗵𝐿ović be used in midfield? Because Julian Nagelsmann has come out in the media this week and said that 𝗵𝐿ović needs more minutes for Bayern Munich if he's to be considered for the Germany squad. So he was seen as the next Toni Kroos kind of last summer, but he's not even getting as much game time as you would have expected, because Fitz & Company, he's preferring maybe the busyness of 𝗀𝗏𝗀 in midfield. And 𝐿𝐭𝐿 is having a fantastic all-round season, and he's expected to sign a new contract that's expected to be announced some stage this week, so keep an eye out for that one. But 𝐭𝐿𝐭𝐿 has been phenomenal this season for Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. He's the only player in the big five leagues with over 60% of his duels won, over 90% passing success, and over 30 chances created. So he's just kind of an all-round beast for Bayern Munich, and that's a key reason why they are clear at the top of the table. On the other hand, Union Berlin are getting goals from set pieces. Christopher Trimmel, he has 16 assists from corners in the last 5 Bundesliga seasons, and the only other 2 players to have 16, and one of them is Joshua Kimmich, Vincenzo Grifo as well. So this is a team where this is a match where I think Union Berlin will look to kind of capitalise on these set pieces, try to win fouls up the pitch, get corners, and maybe score those ways. But Bayern Munich, they will be hoping that Jonas Orberg can get another clean sheet after keeping his first clean sheet against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League this week. And I said on our Champions League show that he's the 4th different goalkeeper Bayern have used this season, but he is seen as the long-term successor to Manuel Neuer. And with Neuer injured, Orberg has got to continue in goal and get his kind of baptism of fire in the Champions League and the Bundesliga. So they're hoping that he can keep more clean sheets for them. Union, in the past 8 years against Bayern Munich, they have not beaten Bayern Munich. So Bayern to win at 143 isn't a bad safe bet for this week, probably. Bayern have won all the last 4 meetings. 3 of those were to 0. Union Berlin are averaging less than a goal a game, 0.9 goals per game. So Bayern to win and Bayern to win to 0. I'm looking at in this one.
Well, let's see if they are a hangover after beating Leverkusen twice in the Champions League. Penchev says he's not going to comment on Bayern Munich being too partial. Well, this is what sports betting is. That's why they always say you shouldn't bet on your team. Next game is Werder Bremen, Monchengladbach. Bremen, another team that gave us a massive surprise last weekend, beating Leverkusen away, and they were coming from 4 consecutive defeats and a knockout in the Pokal against Arminia Bielefeld. Gladbach lost to Mainz, but still challenging for Europe, and they are on a good streak when they are playing away. Ronan, 3 consecutive away wins.
Yeah, hopefully they can keep up that sort of consistency, and hopefully this is a match, because I don't think I've said it in the previous matches we've talked about, hopefully this is a match where we can see some goals, because these are teams that have been terribly inconsistent, 10 defeats each so far this season, but they are teams that like scoring goals. Michel Weiser is going to be suspended for Werder Bremen. He picked up his 5th yellow card this season when he was injuring Florian Wirtz in their game against Bayer Leverkusen. I don't think he's going to mind too much that happened, because it got them the 3 points and a kind of a surprise win. It was another surprise win last week. It was the first time in 18 years that all of Dortmund and Bayern and Leverkusen have all lost on the same match day of the Bundesliga. So that was a big surprise last week. And like you said earlier, the bookies would have been laughing all the way to the bank. So hopefully we can change some of that this week. In recent years, Gladbach have had the upper hand in this match, 5 wins to 2 in the last 13 games. Gladbach won 4-1 earlier this season, but both games last season were 2 all draws. So there has been lots of goals in this game, in this meeting in recent years. And Gladbach's last 3 games have all had 3 or more total goals. 5 of Bremen's last 6 games have all had 3 or more total goals. So I'm going for total goals over 2.5 in this one.
Let's move on to the next game, probably the best one in this match day. RB Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund, 2 teams underperforming really this season outside the Champions League spots. Dortmund 10th in the standings. but still 7 points away from Frankfurt, so still with options to play next season the Champions League. Of course, in their mind is the game in Lille, so we have to take this in consideration. RB Leipzig, they are not improving despite being outside of Europe. No wins in the last 4 Bundesliga games for RB Leipzig.
Yeah, these are two teams that are kind of in a bit of turmoil at the moment, and it looks like the only way that Borussia Dortmund can qualify for the Champions League next season is to win this year's Champions League. So we're obviously talking before the Lille match, so maybe they'll even be out by the time the matches come around this weekend, but hopefully not for Bundesliga fans anyway. Yeah, these are teams also that have been in the media a lot this week. Sky Germany reported that Marcel Sabitzer is generating a bad energy at Dortmund. They're also reporting that 𝐬𝐵RICHE 𝐶AN and Julian Brandt could leave this summer, along with a host of other players. And Sport Bild, the big media power in football power in Germany, they are claiming that Xavi Simons, his attitude is a problem in the Leipzig dressing room. So both of these teams seem to have players that are causing problems for their clubs, according to reports that are coming out in Germany this week, which doesn't sound good. And Marco Rose, the Leipzig manager, he was again backed by Leipzig's head honchos. Marcel Schaffer said that we want to get through this difficult phase with the coach who was born in Leipzig. He won a title for the club, he means the cup, yet he has been criticised every week. And we continue to criticise him on this because he is not getting good performances. He is not getting a tune from this fiddle of RB Leipzig fans. And these teams are teams that are losing a lot of games this season. Dortmund have as many wins as defeats in 2024-2025 season. 10 wins, 10 defeats. Leipzig also have 10 wins, but they have 4 more draws. That's what the only difference in the table. A draw here could be a good one to have a look at 385. And I had a look at the stats specifically for this one because it's hard to separate these two sides because they both look like teams of losers at the moment, to be honest. And but they are teams that tend to score most of their goals in the second half. Dortmund scored most of their goals in the last 15 minutes of the game, and Leipzig scored most of their goals in the 15 minutes just after half time. So second half, both teams to score, yes, could be an option for 270.
𝗵𝐻 sees a home win here, but goals might be the safer bet. To be honest, there is no safe bet with RB Leipzig and Dortmund. This season, they've been a nightmare, really, really underperforming, both of them. I don't know if it's the atmosphere in the dressing room, the managers, or something else, but both teams are not clicking, and right now, both are missing next season's Champions League. Well, on Sunday, we have 3 games, Bochum, Frankfurt, Eintracht Frankfurt playing in Europa League. On Thursday, focus on Ajax, and in bad form in the Bundesliga, 3 consecutive defeats. So if they don't win here, they are gonna drop from the Champions League spots. And now, be careful because Bochum are doing another miracle. We saw last season how they didn't get relegated to the Bundesliga 2 when everyone expected them to do so, and no one expected them to win in Munich after losing 2-0, and now it's only 1 defeat in the last 5 games. It looks like Bochum, Ronan, they are doing it again.
Yeah, they've beaten Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund in their last few in the last month. So that is just crazy that this team can do that. And Eintracht Frankfurt, you said there are 3 defeats in a row. Obviously, the first 2 of those were Leverkusen and Bayern Munich, but they need to be beaten. Union Berlin, they had a chance in the 95th minute to beat Union Berlin. 𝐋𝐞𝐿 stepped up to take the penalty. We had him as an anytime goal scorer. It was saved. Yeah, one of those days. It was it was just one of those days where everything went wrong for the odds, but those days happen. We just need to bounce back, and Frankfurt hopefully will bounce back here. Bernardo is suspended for Bochum. He's played every game since returning from knee injury in November, so he'll be a big absence for them in this one. And Frankfurt, before that Union Berlin game, they had a late kind of change to the team. Arthur Theata wasn't fit to start. He was meant to start. Dino Topmuller said he had a totally different game plan. He had to tear that up and start again 5 minutes before the start of the match, and he's kind of blaming that was the reason that they lost to Union Berlin last week. So hopefully the same won't happen again. And Bochum, that game where they came back against Bayern Munich, they were obviously helped by a red card, but you would expect that Bayern should be able to beat Bochum even with 10 men. So this is a match where earlier this season it was a 7-2 to Frankfurt. They'll be hoping for more of the same. 6 different goal scorers. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 scored twice in that match. He was the only player to score more than once. Omar Marmoush was among the scorers that day, and every other player in the starting 11 nearly. But last year the two matches were both 1-1, so Bochum do have a history of surprising Eintracht Frankfurt. But I think after Frankfurt's bad run, this is the match that they will be kind of setting down as a match they can win. The game plan hopefully won't have to be torn up before the match this week. So I think Frankfurt to win at 2.27 looks pretty good.
Well, 1x for 𝐿𝐵, the opposite, going for the double chance for the home team for Bochum. Let's see if Frankfurt can finally win and keep their fourth spot. And then for the relegation, Heidenheim, Holstein Kiel, both are very likely to go to the Bundesliga too. Kiel 3 points away from Bochum, despite the draw against Stuttgart, and Heidenheim drew with Hoffenheim is only 2 points in the last 8 games. Usually when the two worst teams play each other, Ronan, they draw.
Yeah, well, that could be it. 3.75 for a draw. It wouldn't be a huge surprise, would it? And this is one that we would mark down some other weeks as a both teams to lose sort of match, because this is 18th versus 17th. Both teams only have 4 wins. So it isn't the one where you can clearly say that one team has the advantage over the other team, because these are two very kind of close teams in performance, in results, in kind of on-field aspects. These are two very bad teams. That's it. Kiel are only ahead of Heidenheim in the table thanks to one more draw, but they're still 3 points behind the playoffs, so they need to pick up wins somewhere. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be here against Heidenheim. The last 3 meetings between the sides were home wins, but most of them, well, 2 of them were in the second division, and it looks like they might be playing each other again in the second division again. The only one that wasn't was obviously the 1-0 win for Kiel earlier this season. So that was a tight affair. It was a bad game. I'm expecting more of the same here in this one. The goal scored average between these two teams, 1.1 for Heidenheim, 1.5 for Kiel. So yeah, goals will be at a premium in this one, and I don't think there's going to be many of those. So I'm going for another low scoring game. Total goals under 2.75, 184.
Both teams to lose. Indeed, this game, 𝐿𝐵 is going for both teams to score in this case. And the last game, also a good one, Stuttgart Leverkusen. Last season, they both were great. This season, Stuttgart struggling 8th in the standings, drew with Kiel, winless in 4. So even if they are out of the Champions League, they are not improving, 5 points away from the top 4. And let's see how Leverkusen reacts after, losing the Bundesliga, Ronan, losing in the Champions League. They can still win the Pokal. Actually, they are playing Bielefeld in the semifinals. So I'm not sure if this is kind of the end of the Xabi Alonso era, or people are thinking about him staying 1 season more.
Well, he has been linked with Real Madrid. If Carlo Ancelotti was to go and take the Brazil job, that could be next for him. But we'll see. That was meant to happen last summer and it never happened. So we'll see, does it happen this summer? That Brazil job looks very tempting for Ancelotti, but winning trophy after trophy and every Champions League in sight probably looks even more appetizing for Ancelotti. But a World Cup in USA in 2026, he couldn't rule it out. So maybe he will be drawn to it, and maybe Xabi Alonso will have a new job next season. But for now, he needs to focus on the games at hand, and he doesn't have the Champions League to focus on anymore after that disappointing exit to Bayern Munich, where we had spoken before how Xabi had outclassed Bayern since he had arrived, but yeah, he didn't look to be on the same page over those 2 legs, and Bayern Munich were just much the better team, much more experienced, and that shone true. And maybe is a bit of a wake-up call for Xabi Alonso as well. We spoke before the Champions League match about how Florian Wirtz was majored out for that, and then it was confirmed before the match even kicked off that he would be out for a few weeks. He has an ankle sprain, suffered a loss last week. Stuttgart are missing a player of their own Leonardo 𝗀𝗏𝗀 is suspended for 2 games after his red card in the 2-2 draw with Kiel. These teams are teams that tend to draw when they play each other. The last 3 games are all draws. Leverkusen obviously needed penalties to win the Super Cup, so that one counts as a win for them after 120 minutes or whatever, but it was a draw after 90. Yeah, 5 of the last 6 games they played, draws as well. 4 of those were score draws. If there could be an option to bet on some draws in ACCAs today. Leverkusen have never had 3 defeats under 𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗀 Alonso. We mentioned in the Champions League preview. They did it against Bayern Munich on Tuesday night, so they didn't score in any of those 3 matches they lost either. So they need to start scoring in matches, and they're not really doing it at the moment. So you have to give kind of some favour to Stuttgart picking up some points here. Stuttgart have scored in each of their last 8 games, but they have no wins in 4 matches, so that indicates a draw again. Leverkusen are undefeated away in the Bundesliga. They won't lose. That indicates a draw again. Everything is pointing to draw for this one. So draw at 375.
Well, 𝗀𝗏𝗀𝗀 is making a good point. In my opinion, Bayern might be mentally affected after the heavy defeat in the Champions League and now the lack of goals until the end of the season, apart from the Pokal, because it's very likely that they are going to finish second in the Bundesliga. No Champions League. Still, of course, winning the cup will be a huge success after winning also the Super Cup and after qualifying for the last 16 in the Champions League. I guess they were also very unlucky to play against fellow German team Bayern Munich. Well, Ronan, this is it for this weekend in the Bundesliga. If you feel brave and if we don't see as many surprises as in the previous weekend, you can also make good money in our tipster competitions. There you can see all the ones that are available where you can win some cash prizes. Everything is very transparent, so you can check the wins, the losses, and the standings of each competition. And also you can participate in rivals and create your own tipster competition with your friends. There you go. Ronan, safe bet?
My safe bet this week is Hoffenheim Asian handicap plus 1.25 at 128.
And your ACCA?
My ACCA is Hoffenheim Asian handicap 0 and Augsburg Asian handicap 0. And that's for a total of 461.
Really high one, indeed. Well, thank you, Ronan. Thanks, everyone, for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.